So welcome, I'm glad you're here. Today, we're going to paint a sky. So this is a two-part tutorial. Tonight, or today if you're watching this during the day, we'll be really focusing on getting nice blending skies with clouds and different colors, just for fun, because skies can be a bit challenging, and certainly clouds are very challenging for some people if you've not done a lot of them. So part one, we'll be focusing a lot on the sky and getting it just the way we want it. And then next Tuesday, we're going to do part two. And part two is going to be working on getting a sea or an ocean or a lake, beautiful lake in the bottom half of the painting, and maybe some mountains in the distance. So I decided to start doing two-part tutorials because sometimes people get intimidated when they see a 30 or 40-minute tutorial and they really just want a quick tip. So this way you get a painting at the end of two tutorials, but each tutorial will hopefully only be 12 to 15 minutes long, maybe 20 at the most. Always open to having you connect with me. I'd love to hear what you think. As you're learning to paint these clouds in the sky, you can feel free to pause the video, and you will probably have to at any time. Work away, have a sip of your beverage. It's all good. I've designed it to kind of be shorter, but you can pause it as often as you like. And let me tell you, I'm probably going to be pausing a few times to have a little sip. One moment. So red wine always goes well with painting. So good. Liquid courage. Some of us need that. Another new thing that I'm starting to do is several of my viewers have said they don't even know where to start to get their supplies. Like they get overwhelmed when they walk into Michael's, and I can understand that. I've been known to spend hours, if not days, in Michael's. So just to make it easier for you if you're really new at this, I've actually, in the description below this video, and every video from now on, there will be a link to Amazon to a wish list of mine that's public. And everything on that list, I put comments to the side so you know exactly what it is, whether it's a high priority item for you or whether it's optional. And I've tried to make sure everything is Amazon Prime, because I know that when you get in the mood to paint, you don't want to wait 3 weeks for your products. So everything should be able to be ordered and get to you in a few days, which is kind of nice. So you make a plan with some friends to do one of my tutorials. You both go on there and you order 2 of everything and you're good to go. So I just thought that might be helpful for some of you. To check off another one of those excuses that you use when you say, I can't paint, I don't have what I need, I can't paint, I don't have enough booze. I mean, I won't buy you booze, but don't let that be an excuse. Go get a beer. If you need some liquid courage, by all means, have some liquid courage. It's okay with me. Just don't get drunk. We don't want that. So here we go with our tutorial. So as you can see, I have loaded my palette with lots of goodies. So this is white. I'm hand holding you here. You can tell that's white, I know. This is magenta. Both of those are Artist Loft, my white and my magenta. This is called Brilliant Magenta, but any magenta will do, or might be called pink. Doesn't matter, it's all good. I prefer that to using red, especially for something like a sky where you wouldn't see a lot of bright reds, but you would see a lot of deep magenta. In some skies anyway. And then of course I've got some blue. I've chosen ultramarine blue. This is Amsterdam ultramarine blue. And I chose ultramarine because ultramarine is a little bit of the purpley side of blue, and that will go really well with the magenta, because it'll make magenta really happy. You'll get some beautiful purples. All right, so I have several brushes that I'm going to be using. This large flat brush that's very narrow bristles. This is one of my favorite brushes for getting paint on really quick and for, you know, all of the stuff. I've already got it dampened a little bit, so it's ready to go. And the other brush that you'll primarily see me using tonight is called puffy brush. And it's not really called that. It's called a mop brush. It's good for blending, but I call it a puffy brush. So the next thing that I have that is optional, ladies and gentlemen, it's called Slow Dry Blending Gel Medium. It's Artist Loft. I also got it at Michael's. I could not find it on Amazon. The problem with doing skies, especially if you're a new painter, is to get time to blend everything nicely before everything dries. Because once the acrylic is mostly dry, it's sticky and it won't blend together. You can layer acrylics very well and you can get blends that way, but it's a struggle sometimes if you're not used to how to do that. So if it stays wet a little longer, it's very helpful. So blending medium. Okay, so I'm gonna take a second and add some of my blending medium to each paint color. Okay, I've added blending medium with each pile, and I'm just going to use a round medium-sized brush to kind of work that in to each color. I'm going to take my largest brush, nice and flat. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get this big wide brush, as big a wide a brush as you have, kind of saturated with some nice white. Once I get him saturated well, I'm going to put my palette down and I'm going to grab my water bottle in my left hand and I'm going to spritz my canvas directly with some water. Just get it kind of saturated. This will help the paint go on to the canvas a little more easily. So yeah, you don't want too much. So I'm just going to paint pure white. I'm not paying attention to what direction my brush strokes are going right now. You won't be able to really see this very well, but I'm just kind of getting some white happening as a first layer because I want a nice bright sky, so white is always good. Yeah, see how fast that went on? If I would have not put the water on first, it would not have gone on that fast. So now I'm going to not wash that brush out and I'm going to stick it in just the edge of the blue. Put some blue on the very tip of the brush. And I'm going to start working in some blue. And I'm just going to kind of think of color blocking. So I'm going to put some on the top corner. I'm going to put some here. Because we put blending medium on in these paints, you're not going to worry about it drying as much as you would normally. So you can paint in any direction in a sky. It's all good. So now the fun part. Again, not washing my brush. I'm just going to add some of that beautiful magenta wherever I feel like for fun. But not everywhere. I'm not going to add it everywhere. A little bit like that. Then I'm done with that brush. That brush is done because then we want to break out our puffy brush. Every time I say that, I smile because I just like the sound of puffy brush, otherwise known as a mop brush or a blending brush. So with this brush, you can kind of move in kind of circular motions. And it just kind of blends the paint together. And you'll notice, and you get used to how to use it. It just, as you move into the white area, it'll start blending in the white. And it kind of gets rid of those lines that the other brush puts on. I just use the other brush to start because it's quicker to get paint on with the other brush. Like I say, you can go in any direction you want. We're going to reclaim the white at the end for more clouds. Don't you worry. This is just our second step. It's not over till it's over. I know I say that a lot in my tutorials because it's always something that I need to make people aware of and remind them of because they start to panic if it doesn't look perfect. It doesn't need to look perfect yet because it's not done. So it can look however it wants to look right now. It's all good. Okay. Now, I didn't wash my puffy brush. I'm gonna take the brush and I'm gonna stick it in some pure white. Nice white on my brush. And then I'm just gonna decide where I might want some clouds, and I'm just gonna circle motions round and round. You start where you want the center of the cloud and then you move out. And you can get like a really cool blendy cloud vibe. The hardest thing for me as an artist, and I will confess to you, my weakness is I like to overwork things. A lot. I totally overwork things. And then I'll go, oh, I liked it better 5 minutes ago. It's the nature of who I am. I'm gonna take the tip of this brush and put it in some pure blue. And I'm gonna make some more extreme blues in my sky. Another thing it's good to get used to is, if you're a new painter, is how much paint you need for the various kinds of things that you want to accomplish. And that just comes with experience. And I'm gonna do the same with some pink. You'll notice sometimes I, what I call scrumble, around. Sometimes I do this. It's like a mix of the two that will give you the magic. That's when the magic happens. So now I'm gonna wash the brush out. Now you'll notice when I wash my brush out, I kind of squeeze the excess water out of it, and then I kind of wipe it on my towel. You can do it on a paper towel. Squeeze, because this brush holds a lot of water. See, it's very puffy. So the more bristles there are on a brush, the more water it can hold on to, and that can really wreck things for you. So I usually do dry it when I take it out of the water. So now I'm going back to that pure white, and it'll look a little more like extremely white this time, little wispy clouds. Often, if there's an edge that's bothering me, I'll just start kind of on the edge of the white and scuffle my way upwards into the sky until I can't tell that I'm adding any color. It's just blending it nicely. And then sometimes just really lightly skimming that canvas, just blending it overall for an overall look. Scrumble. Don't forget, not clouds do not look like cotton candy. They're not round necessarily. They're different shapes. So kind of avoid that temptation to make the clouds all kind of the same vibe, because you don't need to do that in nature. Clouds will all be different shapes, different textures, and it's all good. I move pretty fast with my brush. I've always thought, you know, it'd be really cool if some painter invented a brush that you could put a battery in it and it would spin. And then you could just like set it there and it would spin and blend as you just did this, instead of having to do it all yourself. Because I'm constantly going round and round. Okay. Often in a sky, it's not going to be all cheerful and beautiful like this. There'll be grayish areas, grayish clouds. So a little black goes a long way. So I'm going to put an eensy-weensy little bit of black on my palette, about the size, half the size of a dime. Seriously, do not need much. Okay, So what you want to do is you're not going to put this in black and go white on your canvas, because yes, I use the blending medium, and it's still a little bit wet, but it's starting to get drier. And so the last thing I want is a big black mark. So I'm going to take some white and then the teensiest bit of black, just got a little black on the end of that brush. And then I'm going to kind of mix that on my palette first. So you'll see it just makes a really nice little gray. I want a little bit more white in that gray. I don't want my sky to be too cloudy. So just a little bit gray, like a gray white. So now I'm gonna kind of put some gray along the base of some of those clouds. And I'm gonna blend it in. So I'm going to now go just one shade darker gray. See these dry marks that I'm having trouble blending in? That's what happens when your paint gets drier. When you add a little more water to your brush, you can do a little bit of a temporary fix. But I'm liking what the gray is doing, because then it's not just quite kind of a, it's not quite so much just a happy sky. I mean, sometimes happy skies are great, but they don't look as real, because in a real sky, you'd get lots of different colors of the clouds and the different textures. Okay, so now this is the last layer of white on the clouds. So I'm actually just sort of brushing some white along the kind of the top area of the clouds. And making sound effects, making it a little more interesting, just along that top, and then blending it at the bottom. So I typically make harder edges at the top and blend towards the bottom. I'm going to show you another quick tip. It involves your finger and your palette. I'm going to put my palette here, and I'm going to take my index finger, and I'm right-handed, so you would use your index finger you would normally use your paintbrush in. You would use the index finger of your hand that you usually use to paint, and put just some white on your finger, end of your finger. And you can like do little edges. So I actually love finger painting. So you can like make some little cool edges, and I'm just kind of going round and round or side to side with my finger. And this is actually by far and away my favorite way to finish clouds. Okay. So there you go, some nice clouds. I want lots of sky though, so my horizon will be about there. So when I do part 2, you will see some mountains and some water. Thanks so much for hanging out with me in my studio. Feel free to connect with me in the comments or check out my social media sites below. And if you enjoyed this tutorial, show those like and subscribe buttons some love. See you next Tuesday.